middle of it because I am tired. Okay, so the Mongols are an incredibly important area of study, and unfortunately your textbook does a terrible job with them. The Mongols are like the linchpin of what made the medieval world for Europe, Asia, and Africa, the medieval world of Europe, Asia, and Africa. Without them going and toppling everything down and going and bringing back trade and all sorts of technology, just the world wouldn't be what it is today if it wasn't for the Mongols, who did incredibly horrible things and also incredibly awesome. So I hope you guys enjoy this. I find them utterly fascinating. I've got a lot of great stories about them. And yeah, let's go on. So this is the Mongol Empire at its greatest extent. It's humongous. Look at this. You know, we've got Asia from Korea all the way to going into the Hungarian Empire here. We've got Russia. I mean, China is a huge country. And look how, like, China is just a teeny part of the Mongolian Empire. It's incredible the amount of land they conquered. And here's the thing. You don't have to write this timeline down, but they do it in 73 years. That's it. 73 years to go and get all of this. Wabam. It's incredible. It is the largest contiguous empire in the world. Now, the British Empire is going to span more places, but the Mongols, it was all the Mongols, and they had their firm rule on it. It was incredible. So, let's get a little background in here. The Mongols, as you read last night, were nomads. You know, they didn't stay in one spot. They were nomadic herders, and they're from the steppes of Asia. So Mongolia right here, it's in the middle of the steppes of Asia. And basically, the steppes of Asia are a flat grassland. And this goes all the way, you know, from, you know, north of China, going into modern-day Hungary and Romania. So it's a huge, huge flat grassland. And it's like wild because it's so flat and because it goes so far east to west, they get crazy weather patterns. Like, for example, in July, it might just have a flash snow. Like, it could be like 70 degrees, and then the next day, just a snowstorm. That's how crazy the steppes are. So this is going to be an incredibly harsh and difficult place for people to live in, but the Mongols are going to do it. So why did the Mongols leave? Why do we think? We think probably it was a drought. So we think Nora, you know, she lives off of her animals. You know, they're eating the grass, and she goes, eats the milk and the meat, and, you know, uses the furs and all that. And so we think Nora one day was like, hasn't rained in a while. My animals don't have enough grass. So she moves a little bit. Now, of course, there are people there, so she kills them and takes their land. And then it's going to keep on going, we think, for the Mongols to break out of here and to wind up going and creating this humongous empire. Now, I do want you to be aware, some history books you read or videos you'll watch might call this group the Tartars. This is because old European history books are the worst. I'm serious. Like, they couldn't get any names right. We talked about how in the Middle East, how they spelled everything wrong, and now we have all these different spellings for words, even though there should only be one. It's the same thing here. The Tartars were a group of people they conquered, and the Mongols were all about assimilation. So after they conquer the Haydens just become part of them. That, I should say, the Haydens that aren't murdered. Most of the Haydens will be murdered. But those of you that survive, you basically become one with them. You know, they adopt your culture and you adopt their culture. And so some Europeans just thought they were the Tartars, and then it stuck for like hundreds of years, which is super duper annoying. And as I said, they create the world's largest empire ever. It has not been topped unless you count like things like the British Empire, but that was like speckled all across the globe, and in my opinion doesn't really count as the same thing. So check this out. We would call them a yurt today. The Mongols use the term gur. Who could tell me what's happening in these pictures here? What are they doing? Aiden.
Working?
Working, maybe. What does it look like we have here? So we've got the gur, we've got these oxen. What do you think, Eli?
They're moving the houses.
Yeah. World's first mobile homes. Yeah. Mongols. Isn't that crazy? Like literally, like so here's the inside of like the Khan's. It's humongous. Like there's places to sit, like it fills all these people. There's still space. They have the brazier in the middle for warmth. And yeah, they have wheels on them and they just go. And that's pretty awesome. The Mongols they're going to be so innovative and have so many cool things, and the Gur is just a fantastic example of that. I think it's so cool, so stinking cool. So let's get to Genghis Khan. Now, Genghis Khan, his mommy didn't call him that. His mommy named him Temujin, and he had a tough life. His dad was out and wound up meeting some guys in a camp. And he said, "Hey, it's late. Can I spend the night with you guys, share your fire and all that?" Like, "Oh yeah, sure." And you know what they do? They poison him for funsies. Yeah. So Genghis Khan's dad dies when he was pretty young. And then here's what happens. So the Mongols practiced polygamy, meaning the husbands married more than one wife. So there's Genghis and his mom, and then his dad had another wife and two sons, so his half brothers. And the other wife is just like, well, without him, I'm leaving. I'm leaving you stranded here. I'm abandoning you. Oh, and you can take care of my two sons. I'm going to go live a new life. And he's like, what? So Genghis is left with his mother and his two half-brothers. Well, let me tell you something a little bit about how the Mongols were. Well, those half-brothers, they were not very nice to Genghis. One day, Genghis is going and he's fishing because, they need to get food so that he and his family could eat. He's a young boy. I think he's only like 9 or 11 in the story. I can't remember. And one of his brothers, half-brothers, steals a fish he just caught and starts running away, teasing him. You know what young Temujin, the future Genghis Khan, does? Draws his bow, arrow, kills his brother right there. Now, this is going to be a telling thing about the Mongols, though. His mother was proud of him. Yeah, isn't that crazy? Imagine Eli, if Mariah stole your fish and you just shot her with an arrow. I'm pretty sure your mom would ground you. At least. Oh, no, wouldn't ground you. Say, good job. Kill you, yeah. So he becomes what we call Genghis Khan. It's a title around 1206, and he does this for 21 years till 1227. Now, probably it was pronounced Genghis Khan. And once again, it's one of those things that Europeans got it wrong. I will probably default to saying Genghis because that's what I grew up with and which most people know him as. But Genghis Khan is really what it's supposed to sound like. And you'll see it translated a lot of different ways. This the source for here has it translated as Ocean King. I believe the textbook I have copied for you is Sky King. The idea is this big, immense ruler over like an unfathomable amount of space, that he was the boss. And it's going to be so funny because they're going. There's going to be one point where the Pope winds up sending an envoy to him. And the Pope is like, oh, you can go and swear loyalty to me in Christendom. And his response is like, no, actually, you can swear loyalty to me. He didn't let anyone say that they're the boss of him. Now, he is going to be responsible for uniting the Mongol tribes. And this is going to be a really, really big deal because we talked about our Arabs last unit, and how the Arabs for hundreds, if not thousands of years have been fighting each other, and how often people conquered and ruled them because they were always too busy fighting each other. The Chinese, for example, are going to typically use the Mongolian tribes as mercenaries against other groups of who they considered barbarians. And so when Genghis Khan or Temujin, whatever you want to call him, winds up uniting the Mongols together, they create an unstoppable force, as we can see with that map before, showing just how huge the amount of land and territory that they conquered. And much like other rulers, he's going to basically say, I'm the boss because the gods want me to. He had Tengri, the sky god, being his patron god. But we don't think that Genghis was particularly religious, that it was more an excuse that he had. By the way, you're going to see a lot of pictures of Temujin, Genghis Khan, and they're all just what we imagine. We don't actually know what he looked like, which is kind of crazy. So these are all guesses, but none of them are like the real deal. Not until Nalea lets her borrow her time machine so that we can go and have London take a picture of him. Now, this is a quote from Genghis Khan. This is what he considered man's greatest joy. And if anyone saw the old Conan the Barbarian movies, this is completely stolen exactly from that. Man's greatest joy is in victory. To conquer one's enemies, to pursue them, to deprive them of their possessions, to make their beloved weep, to ride on their horses, and to embrace their wives and daughters. So he says man's greatest joy is to kill his enemies, to steal their stuff. And not only just to kill them, but like when Rajveer is running, to chase after them, not to give them any quarter, to steal all of their stuff, and then to make all the people that love them cry in sadness. To go and take their horses, to ride on their horses, to go take their wives and daughters as your own wife. I mean, that's not very nice. Not nice at all. And he said it was man's greatest joy. So that's going to give us a little bit of an idea about the Mongols. Now, we're actually going to stop at this point. And if you thought the story about him killing his brother or